Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I'm your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, the founder of Utrema Limited and the inventor of gold leaf fertilizer, as it's called in the US, or liquid gold as it's called here in the United Kingdom. And one of the unique features about that product is that it's pH perfect, which means not only is it the right pH when you add it to the solution, it keeps the pH regardless of what the plant tries to do with the fertigation solution or any additives you add that might be acid or alkaline. And that's very different to most hydroponic fertilizers, where they actually just add the chemicals that are just going to add nutrition. They don't add things like the technology for pH perfect or the dechlorination or the biostimulants and things like this. So gold leaf in the US has got it all. Liquid gold in the UK has got it all in there. And I want to talk more about that pH aspect and what it is that makes the pH swing down or swing up in conventional hydroponics. And hopefully that can help you manage it, because at the end of the day, it's all about practical solutions. So the first thing to note is that the other thing about the product is the gold leaf is that it's not just the chemicals that prevent the swing that are important for making sure that it's pH perfect. It's also the balance of the nitrogen sources. So it's got the correct balance between nitrates, which are NO3, and ammonium, which is NH4. And that's important because those both have a massive impact on the pH. So NO3 is an anion, a negatively charged chemical, nitrates. And so when plants absorb that, they have to pump out a hydroxide, an oxygen and hydrogen molecule, and that raises the pH. So that gives you alkalinity every time a nitrate molecule is absorbed. And every time an ammonium molecule is absorbed, it pumps out a proton or a hydrogen atom, and that's a cation, and that lowers the pH. So if you have loads of ammonium, that lowers the pH. If you have loads of nitrates, then that raises the pH. And some fertilizers contain loads of these, one of form or the other, mainly nitrates. And that's fine, because to begin with, you add that to the solution and it doesn't change the pH. It keeps the pH. The pH might be 6.0 when you add it, but as soon as you put a plant into that system, it starts pumping in the nitrates, and the pH rises dramatically. That's why you get this massive spike or change in a pH, because it's stable to begin with, but the elements are not balanced. And then other elements have an impact. So any of the other positively charged elements like potassium and magnesium, they're all positively charged. So when the plant tries to absorb them, that lowers the pH. And then the negatively charged things like the sulfates, then when they're absorbed, the plants will raise the pH. So depending on what the plant's absorbing, that massively changes the pH. So having a balanced fertilizer is one thing, and having a product that buffers that, so chemically buffers it, so that even if the plant does that, the pH won't change, because these chemicals sort of like resisting it, putting the brakes on that system. And that's the beauty of gold leaf or liquid gold. But they're not the only things that can massively change the pH, along with additives like, seaweed extracts if they're very alkaline. There are other aspects of growing. So plants release natural acids when they're growing, things like citrates, lactates, malates, to absorb nutrients that they are deficient in, particularly phosphorus, but also iron and things like this. So if you have a plant that's iron deficient, it might actually make the fertigation solution more acidic, as it thinks it's growing in soil. Obviously it doesn't think that, but it's evolved to grow in soil where if they pump out more acids, there's more chance of them getting phosphorus and iron and manganese as well, I think. So that's one issue. The other issue is that ammonium will break down with the action of microbes, they'll convert that into nitrates. And that process, so if you have bacteria in your growing system, they'll convert ammonia to nitrates and release hydrogen molecules, and that will acidify the solution as well. The reverse doesn't happen as much, but it's mainly ammonium to nitrates. So if you've got loads of microbes, that will happen. And again, microbes will break down organic material to produce acids. So if you've put sugary additives like lots of carbohydrates, lots of bud boosting products, you put them in too early into your hydroponic system. If you're growing, say, legal cannabis, and you're using something like a rock resonator, that's a carbohydrate sort of molasses type product, or any of those sort of sugary, what's the other one? Honeycomb, that sort of product full of sugars. Then if there's loads of microbes, then that can produce acidic solutions as it sort of ferments and breaks down. Warm, oxygen-rich solution will speed acid formation, and soft or O water has low buffering, so the pH drops easily, whereas hard water tends to be alkaline to begin with. So that's something to look out for as you add water to your system. If you're not using RO water, if you're using hard water, that will tend to raise the pH. The more bicarbonates that are added to the water, and also CO2 is used up by either the plants or algae growing in the system, that can lower the pH. But that's minor compared to the other factors that I have talked about. So there's some of the factors that affect pH and the reasons why you might wonder, why is my plant suddenly having a massive swing to the acidic range or to the alkaline range? It could be that your fertilizer is actually dominated by either ammonia or nitrates. Ammonia is NH3, ammonium is NH4. So I'm not saying ammonia incorrectly. It's a different name for when that nitrogen molecule has an extra hydrogen atom on it. It's called ammonium, and that's the form that plants absorb it. It dissolves in water. It's not a gas like ammonia. So yeah, that's interesting to know. And if you are struggling with pH, you are seeing massive changes and you're always adding pH up or pH down, then get in touch with us here at Utrema and we're more than happy to help. You shouldn't be adding massive volumes all the time, but some people find they are. And of course, it depends on your crop. Some crops prefer to absorb the nitrogen in one form, and so they'll always be swinging the pH one way, whereas other crops will swing the pH in the other direction. And yeah, it's an interesting area. It's a challenge, but if you're become an expert in growing a certain crop, it's a little moat that you can have around intellectual property and know-how that you can use to make sure that you produce the best possible crop, and other people will struggle to enter your sector. So that's been Hydroponics Daily for today, a bit of science around pH control. Hope you liked it. If you have, leave us an Apple Podcast review. If you're not on Apple Podcast, don't leave us a review because it doesn't help. But if you are, please do leave that review because it helps tremendously share the word of hydroponics with the general public and the wider community. And please make sure you follow the podcast. And if you don't do any of that, at least you can do is check out utrema.co.uk to have a look at some of the amazing technology I've described in this podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, goodbye.